Welcome to Rapid Retro Reviews, where we go back in the day and play some old school bangers and failures. 2 years after the release of the critically acclaimed Banjo-Kazooie, Rare released Banjo-Tooie, the highly anticipated sequel to their original masterpiece. Two years after Banjo and Kazooie defeated Gruntilda, Grunty's sisters Mingella and Blabelda use magic to free Grunty from her boulder entrapment. Seeking revenge, Grunty destroys Banjo's house, killing Bottles the Mole in the process. Now the duo must track down Grunty and defeat her once again. The game takes place in the Isle of Hags, which is full of 8 new worlds to explore. Similar to the previous game, you must collect Jiggies to unlock new worlds, and to progress through these worlds, you'll need to learn some new moves from Jam Jars, who is Bottle's brother. There are a plethora of new moves to learn in this game. Some of the biggest additions to Banjo-Tooie are the Grip Grab, which allows Banjo to grab ledges, the Split Pads, which separates the duo, and the Breagle Blaster, which puts Banjo in first-person shooter mode while he uses Kazooie as a gun. There are also 4 new types of eggs to shoot. It's honestly insane how many new moves and abilities have been added to this game. Banjo-Tooie brings back many returning characters and also introduces some new cast members. Mumbo Jumbo makes a return, but with a different role this time. He is now playable in every world and is used for different purposes, such as opening up parts of the map. The new character, Humba Wumba, assumes the role of transforming Banjo and Kazooie into different animals and objects. Unlike the previous game, every single world has a transformation this time, and they are just as awesome and creative. In Grunty Industries, you turn into a washing machine, and you have to find 5 workers with soiled overalls and wash them. These rabbits get so excited when you wash the shit stains out of their overalls. The worlds in Banjo-Tooie are all brand new and much larger than those of Banjo-Kazooie. Most of the new worlds are really awesome and fun to explore. Widgie World is probably my favorite, with a ton of cool attractions and areas to check out. It's also great interacting with and fighting dinosaurs and cavemen in the prehistoric pterodactyl land. Now, unlike Banjo-Kazooie, in which arguably all the worlds are good, Tooie has some rough ones. I've never really liked Jolly Roger Bay, as most of the world is underwater, but it's not horrible. It's nothing compared to Grunty Industries. This world sucks ass, and playing through it is just a chore. You'll spend hours opening up the different floors and passageways of this maze-like waste disposal plant, getting lost numerous times along the way. It's hands down the worst map in the game. Banjo-Tooie has a ton of cool boss battles. These battles are really fun, and the designs of the bosses are really interesting and hilarious at times. My favorite is probably the aerial battle against Mr. Patch, or the underwater battle against the anglerfish, where you need to pop his precious boils. When starting Banjo-Tooie and progressing through the first few worlds, I had a ton of fun and had more or less a similar experience to Banjo-Kazooie. As you get deeper into the game though, the problems with Banjo-Tooie start to become more and more prevalent. The biggest issue with Banjo-Tooie is the backtracking. You are required to go back to previous worlds on multiple occasions. This doesn't seem so bad at first, as it's cool to see how the different worlds interconnect. Trust me, it gets old very quickly. For example, to get into the Grunty Industries main building, you need to go into the world, hit the train switch, then go to another world and take the train into Grunty Industries and open the main door. Is that really necessary? In Jolly Roger's Lagoon, which is World 4, to heat up the pig's pool you need to go to Cloud Cuckoo Land, which is World 8, hit the ice cube to cool down the hot water in Half Fire Peaks, and then you have to go to Half Fire Peaks to release the water into the pool in Jolly Roger's Lagoon. So you cannot get the Jiggy in World 4 until you accomplish a task in both World 8 and World 7. There are actually 16 instances where you need to backtrack throughout the whole game, and that's just for Jiggies. There's even more instances of backtracking for the other collectibles. In Banjo-Kazooie, you're only required to backtrack one time. Now, there's not just backtracking between worlds, but backtracking within worlds as well. For example, in Pterodactyl Land, you'll need to switch to Mumbo to enlarge Wumba's tent, then go back to Mumbo's skull to switch back to Banjo and Kazooie, then go back to Wumba's tent to transform. If you want to be the small T-Rex again, you'll need to go back to Mumbo, then back to the tent, then back to the skull, then back to the tent as Banjo to transform. Holy fuck, can I just play the damn game already? Keep in mind, these worlds are massive compared to those of Banjo-Kazooie, so the walks take forever. Many times I would just intentionally die to save me a long walk back to my destination. I call it my DIY fast travel. I think a few instances of backtracking would have been cool, as it's fun at times to see the interconnections between worlds, but they definitely overdid it. Something else I realized is that there's so many moves in the game that older moves get left behind and even forgotten. Remember the wading boots and how often you needed to use them in Banjo-Kazooie? You'll only be using those like once or twice in Banjo-Tooie. The Beak Buster, or the Slam, is barely used because they added a new attack, the Bill Drill. The Beak Buster had no problem smashing boulders in the first game and now suddenly it's weaker? Or are the rocks stronger? Yeah, I don't know, whatever. Towards the end of the game, you'll need to participate in a Jeopardy-style trivia game, and then it's on to the final battle with Grunty and the Hag 1 drilling machine. The battle is pretty easy, and once you defeat her, you'll celebrate by playing catch with Grunty's head, and she tells you she'll have her revenge in Banjo 3E. Speaking of which, Microsoft, you own the rights to Banjo-Kazooie. Make a fucking new game already. My rating of Banjo-Tooie is an 8 out of 10. Overall, it's a really awesome game, and it's definitely worth playing if you enjoy Banjo-Kazooie. Some people do prefer this game over the first one, and there were some moments where Banjo-Tooie is superior to its predecessor. I think Rare just tried to jam way too many ideas into this game, and unfortunately that made the experience a little bit less enjoyable than Banjo-Kazooie. There's too many moves, too big of worlds, and too much backtracking. To summarize, let's think of Banjo-Kazooie as Charmin Ultra toilet paper, and Banjo-Tooie as a generic roll of toilet paper you would get from a gas station. If you had diarrhea, wouldn't it be more pleasant to use just a few sheets of the Charmin Ultra instead of going through the whole gas station roll, potentially tearing the thin toilet paper and getting shit on your hand? With Banjo-Kazooie, less is more, and Banjo-Tooie is just too much, thinned out, and sometimes a little shitty. Thanks for watching this episode of Rapid Retro Reviews. If you enjoyed, please be sure to drop a like and hit that subscribe button to join the Nasty Nation. I'll see you guys on the next one.